Good morning and welcome to the FP Markets Daily Market Update and another very volatile day in the markets across the globe, really. Having a quick check over here. Obviously, we're open here in Australia and in some of the other Asia Pacific areas. A little bit of a dip down, certainly here, or $2 along from us at the ASX. That's down 0.46 at the moment. A real whippy day in the US as well. Long story short, I think a little bit of recovery was priced in with the Omicron variant, as everyone's talking about it not being as severe as some of the other, certainly, than the recent Delta strain. But then news filtered through to the markets fairly swiftly, actually, that the first cases had appeared in the mainland US, and that really turned things around. So I think even probably the most price sensitive index over in the States, Russell 2000, that was up 2.5%, finished up 2.2% down. So that should give you a pretty good idea of the volatility we've seen across the stock markets today. As you can see, S&P down 1.2%, Nasdaq down 1.6%. As you can see here, Asian markets are opening as we speak. Seoul shares just opened. So that's the Korean index down. The KS11 opened down 0.86%. So it's definitely something. It's the theme we've been talking about for the last few days, and it does seem to be continuing. Markets very, very sensitive to the spread of coronavirus, not surprisingly, I suppose. And we've probably been rocked a bit by Jerome Powell's comments night before last. So plenty going on. Let's whip through a few of the other products that we're looking at very, very keenly. So stock markets on the back foot again. I suppose this European bourses that all had a good day yesterday, we're probably going to be expecting those guys to start in the red, but it does feel like volatility is the order of the day, and that is coming across the rest of the market. And let's not forget, it's Thursday morning here. We'd normally expect some relatively quiet trading sessions ahead of what will be a major non-farm payrolls announcement in the US on Friday night for us here in Australia, obviously. But I think volatility is going to continue as we keep trading those news wires as they come out with regard to the latest version of Omicron. I suppose cases as well are going to become a bit of a feature, and where they hit and where it comes, because as we know, once it gets over a border, it does spread fairly quickly. Right, just checking through the currencies. So Aussie still pretty much on the back foot. We based out on the move after Jerome Powell and his chat the other day, just under 70.80. We're trading around 71 the figure. Talk of some large option expiries around 71.60 actually, and that's probably why it's topped out a few times around that level. Top side for a while. I also think we've probably got some more downside pressure. Once Jerome Powell has come through, and he's talking about tapering and inflationary pressures, despite, I suppose, Omicron hitting the US now. So Aussie sitting around 71 the figure. I think, as you can see here, it's topped out nicely, keeping a close eye. This is on the daily chart. That moving average just coming in around. It's following it quite nicely, isn't it, for the last month or so. So probably some offers coming around about that 72 the figure level. It's been a good break to the downside. We've broken these lows as well. So I think we need a bit of a change in the fundamentals before we see any change in direction in Australian dollar. A bit more whippy across the Tasman with the Kiwi. If you look at those moves there, it really is flying about, but trading around 68 cents at the moment, and a similar pattern on the dailies as well to what we just saw in the Aussie, and probably back in that. A lot like most of the currencies against the dollar, back in that sort of downtrend with expectations of hike moves from the Fed probably coming in a bit now, a little bit further than they were before. Cable, always a very, very whippy friend. Looks a little bit nicer on the longer term chart, doesn't it? But we did see more movement in the cable last night. 132.50 based out for us, or just above 132.50. We're trading just above that 132.75 at the moment. But yeah, one of our biggest products that we're trading, we're seeing a lot of interest in that, and not surprisingly, due to the volatility we're getting coming through. Euro trading around just around 113 the figure, similar pattern as we've seen before. I'll bring this in a little bit closer so we can have a little bit more of a an examination of the recent levels we've seen. So it capped out sort of around 113.80. We do seem a bit range bound. Maybe we are going to be range bound for the currencies as we move into that non-farm payroll key data coming into Friday. But as I said, if we do start to get bigger and bigger headlines coming out with the new COVID variant, then do expect those currencies to start taking off. Obviously, dollar still being seen as a safe haven currency, as usually was the yen. And we've had, I think actually, very interesting point now. I'm onto my dollar yen chart. This move here shown up nicely on the dailies. That's the start of the Omicron coming through, and we did get a really decent hit. So like 115.20, as you can see, there's nothing really going on in the bill and bend. 115.20, it was sort of cycling around really, and then bang, like that's a big move down from there, all the way down to sort of 113.10. Lows down here around 112.50-ish. So big move. So back to that dollar yen risk on, risk off sentiment change. And I think it's been trading very nicely on that. Obviously, with just basing around these levels, it could go either way depending on which next headline we come out. But pressure on the Nikkei this morning as well. So keep an eye on that dollar yen. I think that could be one for those that really want to get involved in some volatile trading. Dollar CAD, obviously closely linked to the oil. I've left this chart in on the hourlies because it's just obviously not perfectly adhering to it. But since we broke to the top side of that former resistance, just what level we were trading at, about around 27.30, it's sort of respected it as a bit of support on the way back down. It bounced a few times off there, so I've just left that in there, coming in around about 127.20 at the moment. It did skip through there, but a nice bounce back up. A big figure really, 128. Keep an eye on oil. Oil's moving around a lot, as would be expected in the current environment. Obviously, if we do start to get border closures, lockdowns, all of the above that we've seen before, then oil's probably in for a bit of a tough time, and you'd probably see dollar CAD hitting the top side. If it isn't anywhere near as bad as it could be, then dollar CAD's probably looking a bit toppy at these levels. So interesting to keep an eye on the CAD. It's not called the loonie for no good reason. It can move around nice and whippy. And I think this is my last webcast for the week. Just to those trading the loonie, bear in mind non-farm payrolls at exactly the same time as non-farm payrolls. We get the CAD employment data as well. That can make for some really nasty moves. Obviously, you're looking for a double whammy. If you get strong US numbers and weak CAD numbers, then dollar CAD flies off to the top side. But you can see some nasty whippy moves if you get a strong one in the US and a strong one in CAD, or obviously vice versa. You can see some nasty stuff. So can be the perfect storm, can be a little bit of a mess. But just bear that in mind if you've got a CAD position moving into that big data release, which I think comes around 12:30 for us here in Australia. I won't go through the rest of the time zones, but 9:30 US. Right, Swissy trading very nicely. I keep mentioning it. Keep an eye on that Euro Swiss down on historical, not historical lows, but multi-year lows. Always whisperings of SMB. It is creeping lower. I think every day I'm just sort of keeping an eye on it. One to bear in mind. And dollar Swiss sort of trading very nicely in this sort of range now. Keep an eye on it, probably hitting the lower end of it. I would suggest this sort of 90-80 level is probably our next support. That's obviously on the daily, a little bit longer. 91.20 on the shorter term hourly charts. Skipping over to my sort of mix and match chart. Bitcoin trading lower again, so trading around sort of 57,000 or just under 57,000 at the moment. Oil, this is what we were pointing out on this. What dollar CAD is still getting some momentum to the top side. Oil hitting around, and not surprisingly, with the negative sentiment coming through, hitting the stock markets, it will hit oil as well. Especially if you're thinking about closures, demand will decrease. Just above $65 a barrel for WTI, I think that is. And gold, a little bit quieter for gold, but I don't think that's going to last for too long. That's the hourly chart. As I said, keep an eye. Topped out 1810. Looks like we've got a bit of support around 1770. That support down here ties in with the stuff on the dailies up here, as you can see, 1740-ish down here. I think that's a key level for those gold punters out there. So I'll just skip over as well. Haven't looked at the bond yields, but tracked off, right? So a little bit surprising for me, to be honest, to see it back down around 143, having capped out around 170, sorry. But plenty going on, so I'm picking more volatility. Thought we might have a couple of quiet sessions into these non-farm payroll data, but not getting that at the moment. Keep an eye on things. I think we've got more volatility coming up, great trading conditions. So if you need anything from us here at FP Markets, please do let us know, but have a great couple of days ahead and good luck with your trading. Thank you very much.